Hello and welcome to another session of Informally Formal. I am truly excited today because we bring to you a very important subject and an equally important person to talk to us about it. Dr. Iqbal Mujtaba is a professor of computational process engineering and is the associate dean of learning, teaching, and quality at the University of Bradford. He is a chartered chemical engineer, a chartered scientist, and the fellow of Iqbal. He has been an adjunct professor all over the world. A very warm welcome to you, Professor Mujtaba.
Thank you, Mr. akberhakim. Thank you for inviting me to this session.
Absolutely. So let's just dive right into our topic, Dr. Mujtaba. I want to talk about the skill sets of the future. The education system that we have is by and far the product of the Industrial Revolution. Okay, that's what gave rise to this mass education system. And I'm afraid that even though educational institutions are aware and they're making structural changes, but I'm afraid it's not fast enough. The fourth Industrial Revolution, where we are headed, education, that we impart our kids, when by the time we start the curricula, by the time they graduate, things are changing so rapidly. Your response to that overall landscape, Professor, please go ahead.
Thank you, and again, for a very important question. You mentioned about Industry 4.0, and it's all about connectivity with the data and information and being shared across various platforms. And of course, the automation and machine learning will be at the forefront of it. So if you look at this, what is ahead of us, and we know that it's coming at a very fast speed. So what will be important, the future landscape, if you can see, or if you can say, the digital literacy will be very, very important. By digital literacy and data skills, I mean that deeper and core knowledge of big data, huge data, what we see around us, whether it's an industry or whether in any sort of platform. And how do we process this data? How do we train our sort of future students to be able to be digitally literate? That will be definitely challenging. If you look at the UK currently, about 18% of the UK workforce, you can be classed them as data literate, for example. But the expectation will be 70% of the employers will be looking for data skills and for their future employment. So this is an area, and of course we are continuously changing our curriculums and to be able to include that fact. But again, that is going to dominate in the coming future, definitely.
Right. Professor, men used to be known for the herd of cattle that they owned. And then they were known for how much money they had and or, property. Now, the most important thing that you hit upon is data is the new king. The one that owns the data basically owns the day. So data literacy, data scientists, data mining, all those things, digital literacy is going to be center stage moving forward. Is that what you're saying, Professor?
Absolutely. And that will be the key driving force of our economic growth and our prosperity. And we have to prepare our future generation along that line. I mean, if you look at the other side of the data literacy or data science kind of thing, which is quite sort of used in banks and other trades and sectors, like a blockchain kind of thing, which is again a decentralized public ledger. And again, the impact is huge of this blockchain, because it can be used in logistics, it can be used in supply chain management, and to track movements of goods from places to places. It can track the life cycle of the products from raw materials right up to the end. The other thing about the data science, which will be important from the business point of view, and why the businesses will be looking at data literacy in their employees, is because think about it as a businessman, that zero waste policy will always give you the maximum profit, meaning that whatever the sort of goods you buy, if you can sell them as soon as you procure them, then you're not holding to that. And only the data science and data literacy can help. Say, for example, in the West, like big supermarkets like Tesco, like many other, but Tesco can be an example. For example, the data science or the artificial intelligence will help them what to put on their shelves and how quickly the consumers are buying those. So they're studying the behavior of the consumers now in many supermarkets around the world. They have introduced, in the name of club card, basically they're collecting data. So they give you about, say, some discount of points to use it in future, but by using that club card, basically they're collecting huge amount of data. They're going to know what you buy on a weekly basis and exactly which sort of supermarkets you go. So you will see in a big city, if you have got a Tesco, for example, have got 10 branches, you will see they do not shelve the same thing in 10 branches. Every branch has got a different shelving and different items they are putting on the shelf because they know the behavior of the customer. And it was only possible because they are collecting huge amount of data and processing it. And by doing that, what is happening is that they will be reduce the waiting time for their goods from procurement to the seller. So it's a huge important. It's just an example I thought I'd just give you. And the other thing is that data literacy is so important that you can control a nation if you deprive them from the data, for example, or the numeracy, as we call them, right? And interestingly, my collaborator in South Africa about 4 years ago mentioned that in South Africa, for Black South Africans, for a long time, they were not allowed to have numeracy in their school. Only they studied sort of English and history and others. The reason being that they said that mathematics is not important for them. English is important so that they can sort of understand the command of their bosses and can do whatever the bosses are asking. Because if you give a nation the numeracy, obviously will not be able to fool them, because mathematics or the data is a power, because that gives you confidence and that can go to your benefit kind of thing. And if you look at any businesses around or the people or the nation who are more successful, this is underpinned by their not only their education system, but the numeracy and the data science is very, very important. And that's going to dominate. And again, you mentioned about right at the beginning that world is changing very fast, and we are not changing our curriculum that fast to cope with the situation or the rapidly changing kind of environment. What we actually need to look at and what we are looking at, I mean, you can compare the education system in Bangladesh and compare with USA. You have been there for many years, I know. And then UK. That from the Bangladeshi context, if you look at it, that we actually deliver a curriculum and we prepare the student to pass the test. We are not actually making them the future learners, because if you look at the World Economic Forum report, 65% of the people or students who will be going to colleges or universities at this point of time, in 25 years' time, they will be doing completely different job, not what they have studied. And that is the data. So what we need to do is that we have to prepare future learners, not give them the curriculum and prepare them for the exam, which is coming sort of immediately in a year time or in 6 months' time. But we have to prepare them as a learner, and so that they can relearn things whenever it is needed. We are trying to develop a community of learners, basically, who will co-create knowledge together. If you look at the olden system of delivery, even in Bangladesh or even in the Western world for many years, the education was a one-way kind of system. So the tutor would come to the lecture, they would give the lecture, the students would take notes and kind of things, they go ahead, prepare for the exam kind of thing. But I think that attitude is continuously changing. What we want in the education system is a kind of quite interactive kind of a platform where not only the students, the tutors or the teachers, they will be also learning. They will be co-creating knowledge together. And I can tell you that in the last many years, the modules I have been teaching, the reason they are very interactive in the class, I have learned many things from my students. And I openly tell them that, look, I have never thought about this or the way of solving this particular problem in a particular way. You taught me a different way. And it's nothing wrong to accept that, and we go from there. I think that's that sort of attitude I think we need to bring.
Professor, why is that such a difficult thing for teachers in Bangladesh?
The thing maybe is a sort of a culture that as a teacher, when we go to the classroom, we sort of behave like as if we know everything. And you are the one here as the receiving end, and I'm the giver kind of thing. I think that attitude needs to go away for the benefit of not only the student, for the benefit of the tutors as well, because I'm sure the university lecturers and teachers who are very open to have this interactive kind of environment, or they have been successful in creating those interactive environments, they learn quite a bit from them. It's a new way of doing things. The problem-solving skills, what we want to teach, but sometimes we need to relearn ourselves as well how to solve a particular problem. And I don't feel ashamed of telling my students, even in front of them, that look, today this is the thing I have learned from you. I never thought about it, and I give them the opportunity to challenge me, to be honest, all the time. I mean, and by doing that, I think it benefits me.
Professor, let me get in here. I especially liked what you said is if you can get the kids to learn, that I believe, because everything is changing so fast, that if you can get them to learn and learn on their own. So the only purpose of education, I believe, is to allow them to think independently. Whatever they need to do to create that love and interest, where they can learn independently. You can call it critical thinking, whatever, but the love of learning independently, so they can continue on a trajectory of lifelong learning, because things are changing so fast. So I am in total agreement with you. It is one thing to talk a good game. Okay, it's quite another to make some structural changes to the education system that will bring about that. So I am glad that you are the kind of person that opens up and challenges the kids to challenge you. That's wonderful. However, the structural changes that are needed in the education system, given that it's a very structured environment, we still do based on grading system, we still do based on age, we still do based on, it's almost like a manufacturing system. Kids get entry into a school, it's like a manufacturing date. This age, okay, they go into this grade and so on. Then you have these businesses out there that have created these multiple choice questions, and the human brain, by now we know, is not meant to learn like that. Professor, your thoughts on that real quickly. What are you doing at your educational institution to change the fundamental structure that does not lend itself to learning the way learning is supposed to be?
Yeah, I mean, interesting that you have mentioned. The one thing I think we do not impart on our students in that or train them on the side of emotional intelligence kind of thing. And what is emotional intelligence is a very powerful skill when you want to work in a team, for example. So the student graduating from the university from a particular discipline, and they go to employment, and they find it suddenly that they have to work on a project or something where they have to work from people of other disciplines. And this sort of training, especially from the context of Bangladesh, is very, very missing. So what we have been trying to do is that right at the beginning, for example, in our engineering program, we have got a module which called the design, build, and test. So the idea is that the students in the first year from many different disciplines, say, for example, the chemical engineering, medical engineering, civil engineering, and mechanical engineering students, they will be working on a project together. And we just give them a brief, say, for example, design a solar heating system to heating 1 liter of say, water from the room temperature to a certain temperature kind of thing. You go and think, and then you come up with you conceive the design, you tell us what you need to have to complete the design, and then we'll order the materials, we'll buy them for them, and then they will fabricate, they will install, they will test it. And that's from day one, so that's a sort of the creativity and also the skill to work with other disciplines. And that is very, very important. So that's how we have started implementing that. The other things, and then we are bringing, especially in engineering education, more and more hands-on experience kind of thing. And the more kind of thing, conceive, design, operate, and implement kind of thing, rather than going through a particular module and just doing that module and go for the exam and then. So we are bringing changes. I mean, over the last many years, we have brought in many changes, and also we support the tutors, also the teachers, because one of the problem I have seen after talking to the students that many of them, they say they do not understand why they are learning a certain module in their program. Where is the connectivity with their future employment? Where is the connectivity with their, say, for example, their program? Say, for example, I give them a module and they can ask me, well, where is its link with chemical engineering, for example, or future employment? When we are in the classroom and giving the students an example, and often in civil engineering, you would give an example of roads and bridges kind of thing. In mechanical engineering, maybe you will be talking about some sort of Rankine cycle of refrigeration or whatever. In chemical engineering, maybe you will talk about oil and gas. But then you need to have the discussion that, look, it is not restricted to this particular example. It's much more wider than you can think.
Okay.
Of. And that's how you can open up their mind.
Professor, I cannot thank you enough. I will have to bring you back because I want to talk to you about so many other things. Okay? So
that will be my pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, absolutely. What a pleasure it's been. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I'm sure this was just as exciting for you as it was for me. Stay safe, stay home. I'll catch you in my next session. Bye-bye now.